Hi guys, and welcome to Escape with Watch Reviews. My name is Steve, and today we're going to be reviewing the Phoibos reef-master. This is the latest version of 2023. I was sent this watch for free from the phoiboswatch.com store. I don't have to send the watch back, but as always, you're going to get my full and honest opinion on this channel. If by the end of this review you want to pick one of these up, I'm going to be leaving a link down in the video description. It's not an affiliate link or anything like that. It's just going to take you right to all of the reef-master watches. You can pick and choose the color you want and then apply the discount, which we'll talk about in just one moment. So the current retail price for this watch is $335 US. That's before any taxes or sales or coupons or anything like that. And they're currently running an early bird special for this thing. So if you use coupon code ED55, you're going to save $55 off the retail price. And that code is good until July 15th, so act fast. These watches do tend to sell out pretty quickly. So yeah, you're going to have to act fast. That is a pretty good deal, and that discount code is just killer. So the watch is available in 5 different colorways that you can see here. I think they're all looking pretty good. They are all textured and sandwich dials. You do have different accents of the minute hand there on some of the colors, so just keep that in mind. But yeah, I think it looks really good, and yeah, I think any of those colors are going to look excellent on this watch. So this watch just recently landed on my desk. I kind of moved it up the queue of watches just because of that discount code. If you guys want this watch, I think you're going to have to act pretty quick. I think these things, they tend to sell out pretty fast. So, and then coupled with that discount code, it's a package. If you like what you see here, it's a package that's going to be pretty hard to beat. So, yeah, I've had a couple of Phoibos watches in the past. They've been excellent. So let's see if this one is just as good. Before we do a quick wrist check for the day. Wearing my Pagani design. This is the new PD 1708. This is kind of their vintage military chronograph. No review yet, but it will be coming on the channel very soon. Alright, so let's get into the dimensions. Got a diameter of 42.1 millimeters. Case thickness of 14.2 millimeters. Got 22 millimeter lug width. Lug tip to lug tip is 48.0 millimeters. And sized up for my 7.5 inch wrist with 2 links removed. Weighs about 175 grams. So this is kind of Phoibos' thing. Big chunky dive watches in original designs. I think this thing looks great. It's pretty compact for a 42 millimeter diver, 48 lug to lug. And you do have female end links, so they just drop straight down, as you can see there. You've got a little bit of curvature to the case there. I mean, I think this thing wears pretty good, 14.5 millimeters thick. Definitely doesn't feel like that on wrist. But I mean, 175 grams, it is a heavy boy. If you're into that style, you're going to love this thing. I'm going to go outside right now and throw this on my wrist for you. And here we are on my 7.5 inch wrist. And you can see that I can definitely pull this off. If you like bigger watches, this one will be just fine. Even on a smaller wrist, I think it's going to wear pretty good. It's got a compact lug to lug. It sits nicely on the wrist, as you can see there. Female end links really help it out. And I think the bracelet balances it very nicely. Overall, I am pretty happy with the way this thing wears. You can see even in this challenging lighting situation, we got a big oak tree above us here. There's no problem reading the reading the dial. So crystal is very nice, has plenty of air coating, and I've got no major complaints with it. And popping out in some direct sunlight here, you can see still really not a problem reading this thing. It got a lot of texture on the dial and a lot of contrast, so really no problems. I like that bezel there. Bezel insert, really nice, and those chamfers, they're just awesome. Really happy with the way this thing wears and really happy with the way this thing looks. Yeah, overall pretty satisfied with it. All right, let's go throw it on some straps and we'll get back to the review. And here we are on a brown leather strap. I think this one looks pretty good. I know leather on divers is a bit of a faux pas, but I've always liked them, and I think this looks pretty good. This is a strap lifted off of one of my San Martin watches. But yeah, I think it looks pretty good, that dark brown with the yellow. I think it goes pretty well together. And here we are on a black rubber strap, got a little bit of texture on it. This one was a pretty tight fit against the case, so I'm going to say anything on the thicker side might be a little bit of a stretch on this watch. This one does fit, just rubs up against the case, so if you have a thick leather strap, you might want to really check and make sure you want to put it on this thing, just because it could tear up that leather. With this rubber though, it works perfectly fine, and I think it looks good. And lastly, here we are on just a gray nylon strap. We got 2 layers underneath there. It is sitting up a little bit higher than I would typically like for a watch like this. So this is not my favorite setup. It still looks pretty good though. All right, let's go inside and let's get back to this review. All right, so let's talk about the case on this thing. So the case is a mixture of brushed and polished surfaces, and it's done pretty nicely. I've got to admit, I really do like it. You have kind of an angular brushing here next to the lug opening. Then you've got these big sweeping chamfers, very reminiscent of, you know, the Omegas and stuff like that. Really nicely done though. I'm very happy with those. I think the polishing on those chamfers is done nicely. The transitions are done nicely, nice and crisp. I mean, getting real close to it. Yeah, I see no bleed over or anything like that. I am very happy with it. Got a nice horizontal brushing on the case sides here, and you get a little vertical brushing on the lug tips there. I'm not sure why they didn't kind of just continue that polishing down, but they didn't, and I don't think it looks bad or anything, just something to note. Flipping it over to the crown side here, again, really nice satinized brushing. Very happy with that. The crown on this thing, it's super grippy. It might be a little small. It just feels a little small for this case. Let's measure that real quick. Yeah, 6mm crown. That's a little small for this case in my opinion. And also this edge here, this top edge here, it's pretty dang sharp. It's got plenty of grip on it, but I mean it's sharp. Yeah, it hurts my fingers when I grip onto it. So just something to note, but really cool Phoibos logo there etched into the crown. Flipping it over to the case back here, you can see they're carrying over their typical Phoibos case back. It looks so dang cool. Really high quality too, nice and soft and on this etching. It looks sweet. You got a pretty cool spec sheet around the outside there. Circular brushing on the bottom of the cases. This bottom edge on the case here, this is actually a little bit sharp. It does a good job of keeping off the wrist, but just something to know. If you wear your watches a little tight, this might actually dig in a little bit and be a little uncomfortable. It's been fine for me. So yeah, no big deal there. But I do like that they're using just a typical case back removal tool notch here just to get in there if you ever need to get in and mess with the NH38. So yeah, overall, I am pretty happy with the case back. Overall, very happy with the case finishing on this thing. I just really like those big chamfers. They look sweet. All right, so let's talk about the bezel on this thing. So bezel is really nicely done. It is a 120 click unidirectional bezel. You can see there's just no back plate at all. There's no bounce or anything like that. Very solid bezel feeling. I'll let you listen to the clicks here. So nice and clicky, even resistance all the way around, and I think it's a pretty good resistance. I haven't accidentally knocked this or anything like that. The alignment is just spot on. It's a great bezel action. I've got zero complaints with that. You're going to like it a lot. It is very tooly, I'll say that. So it's nice and positive clicks, and I do really like that. The bezel itself, it's a stainless steel bezel here, fully brushed. You can see, I guess in between the brushing there is like a bead blasting. It does look really good though. Very happy with it. Nice and crisp, lots of grip. You're gonna like it. It's got no issues getting getting good grip on this thing. I'm very happy with that. The bezel insert, it's a ceramic bezel insert, and you can see here it's a circular brushing, so it does look really nice. The engravings here are all done very nicely as well, and they're filled with BGW9 Lume. We'll get to the Lume shot in a little bit, but overall, I'm really happy with the bezel and the bezel insert and the bezel action. It's great. All right, time to talk about the crystal on this thing. First things first, we will test it for sapphire. No doubt about it. It's a nice strong reading of sapphire crystal, so we're happy to see that. Not unexpected. It is a double dome sapphire, very slight double dome if you can see it there. Hopefully that's coming across. It's got anti-reflective coating on the underside. It does a really good job of keeping this dial nice and clean. I like that it's a very subtle dome. I don't like big domes. They just pick up way too many reflections. This one is not bad at all, and I'm overall pretty satisfied with it. Again, I've got nothing to complain about. It's really good. All right, let's get up close. We'll talk about the dial on this thing. So the dial on these watches are really interesting, very cool. It's a sandwich dial, so you kind of have your dial layer, and then it has little cutouts for all the markers, all the indices, and the bottom layer is Lume. So the Lume on these things should be pretty good. They tout, I think, 15 layers of BGW9 Lume. The Lume is really good. We'll get to that in just a moment here. But here's a nice close look at the texture for you. Really nice on the logo there. Very happy with that. 200 meter automatic. So really simple printing on the dial here. All the markings and all the cutouts, they are outlined in black, so you got nice contrast against that bright yellow. I think it looks really good. The hands, again, really nice and contrasty. A decent size. I think they could be a little bit longer maybe, but really, it never really bothered me, I don't think. So I would like to see them, reach right out to the minute track. That second hand is pretty decent, but yeah, minute hand could be a little bit longer. Same with the hour hand. But yeah, I do like the font that they chose. It's very kind of funky. But yeah, I like it a lot. It's really cool. Even the baton indices there, those are cutouts. You do have printed markers on every 5 minutes there on top of the dial. So you got lots of different layers going on here. And I think it all looks really good. And like I mentioned, the star of the show really is the Lume on this thing. So I'm going to pop up a Lume shot. So here you can see it against a couple other watches in the collection. These watches are really good as far as the Lume goes. This one is no exception. It holds on all night long. It's pretty even application in the Lume as well. I think the hands are a little bit brighter than the dial is, but the bezel hangs on pretty good. And overall, I'm very satisfied with the Lume on this thing. It is that BGW9, that ice blue, which I love, and it looks really good. All right, let's talk about the movement in this thing. So movement is the Seiko NH38, which is nice to see. They're not using an NH35, so this is a no date dial, no date movement, perfect. Very happy with that. Here's how mine is running. Negative 10 seconds a day, 11 seconds a day. It's not running great. I really do prefer these to be on the fast side, but that is, in my opinion, completely acceptable. And these watches are pretty easy to regulate if you wanted to do that. So yeah, but the NH38, it hacks, it hand winds. It's about 40 hours of power reserve. It does everything you need it to do. It's cheap, it's reliable. Yeah, you shouldn't have any complaints with this movement. It is operated by this 3 o'clock screw down crown. Pretty nice and smooth action. Like I mentioned, that top edge of that crown is pretty sharp. Hurts my fingers every time I use it. But this first position here is your hand winding, nice and smooth. The crown is nice and solid, doesn't wobble or anything like that. Pulling it out to the first position here, that is your hacking there. And this is where you set your time. Everything functions as it should. No problems, no complaints. Screwing it in hurts my fingers, but otherwise it is pretty nice and smooth. It's one of those ones where you're winding the movement as you screw it in, so just something to note. So it's not super smooth and buttery smooth like I've seen, but yeah, really no complaints with that. And the movement in general for this price range, I think that's completely acceptable. All right, so let's talk about what I think is probably my second favorite part of this watch. My first favorite is that case. I think the case is awesome. But this bracelet is really, really cool. So it's 22 millimeters. It tapers down to 20 millimeters at the clasp. It is solid links here, solid end links, female pivot end links. They fall straight down, so no links are hanging on each other or anything like that. The brushing is done very nicely, as you can see there. Got no complaints with that. Brushed on the sides as well. You've got screw pins for adjusting. I removed 2 for my 7.5-inch wrist, and overall I am pretty satisfied with it. And I've got no complaints with the functionality of it. I've got no complaints with the comfort of it. This bottom edge has been rounded nicely. I like the shape of the links. It's an H-link bracelet, as you can see here, but kind of like rounded off or barrel shaped middle links. I think it looks really good, and yeah, it's just something a little bit different from your typical 3-link bracelet. So I'm pretty happy with that. And yeah, working our way down to the clasp here, you have your Phoibos branding there on the flip. It's just a pressed outer clasp. I'm not too impressed with the clasp on this thing. It's nice and rounded. It's got 4 levels of micro adjust. You're going to be able to get a good fit on this watch. So fitment is not an issue. Functionality, it works just fine. I'm used to having the 2 button pushers here. This one doesn't have it. It just has your typical like pressure fit lock here. Everything functions again as it should, but I just don't like that mechanism. I wish they would have done a 2 button pusher or something like that. Just something a little bit different than this. The inner parts are fully milled and they're nice and tight tolerances here, so you don't get any wobble or anything like that. There's no kind of on the fly adjustment or anything either, so just something that they could work on this clasp. It's fine. It's just not my favorite part of the watch. But the bracelet in general, I'm very happy with it. It's nice and comfortable, nice and smooth, and I think it looks really, really cool. So there you go, guys. That is the Phoibos reef-master. This is the latest version from 2023. I think they've had 3 or 2 other versions of this watch, and those all sell out pretty quickly. So I don't see this being any different. If you want it, you're going to have to act pretty quick, especially with that discount code, that EB55, I believe it was. $55 off of this, $335. That's a really good deal. I think you're getting excellent case finishing. You're getting a great bracelet, really cool design in general of the watch. And overall, it's a nice package, really nice package. A little bit big for my personal taste, but I can't deny the quality of this thing. It is really, really good. You're going to really like it. I think that's it for me, guys. Thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. See ya.